Hello everyone and welcome back to Respawn Media. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for the support on the channel lately, both returning and new viewers. You have all helped out a ton to make these videos happen. I love to talk gaming, so let's get into it. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on Gotham Knights. If you guys aren't new around here, you'll know that I am a huge Batman fan, a huge fan of the Arkham games as well. I have a lengthy video on the channel where I talk about how much of a masterclass the Arkham series is. I'm pretty experienced and knowledgeable with Batman and his lore through the comic books, games, movies, and TV shows. So I was pretty skeptical when Gotham Knights was first revealed. They had big shoes to fill. It's finally here in our hands, and it's being absolutely shredded apart online by reviewers. The shitstorm that follows this game everywhere it goes is absolutely ridiculous. I knew this game wasn't well received from the beginning, but after digging deeper into my research, it is pretty damn bad. I wanted to play and discuss the game on the channel for you guys, so I put the money out to see what all the fuss really was about. Please keep in mind, guys, everything here I discuss is strictly my personal opinion, and that might not line up with your personal thoughts on the game, and that's totally okay. This is Respawn Media's review on Gotham Knights. Let's get into it. The opening cutscene shows us how Batman died, and it's really well done. Now, these aren't spoilers. The game was advertised in this way to show us that we'll be playing as the Bat family because Batman is no longer around. So you're supposed to know that going into the game. As a Batman fan and reader of Batman comics, this scene was done very well, in my opinion. It showcases what type of Batman this universe had before they lost him. We get to see his combat experience, and it's super fast-paced and intense. We get to see that this Batman was a pure badass. There are many Easter eggs in this scene all around the Batcave that are really fun to spot, and it's accurate to the source material. There is a really strong opening here, and that lays down a ton of potential. The game begins after this lengthy cutscene, and you choose what character you'd like to control. The team decides to pick up on some case files where Batman left off. You then end up investigating the death of Kirk Langstrom. This is where the story begins and where the game starts to teach you the basics. First, taking control of your character can take some getting used to. It definitely feels more different than what I expected it to. After you investigate this crime scene, the game brings you into some combat where it teaches you the basics. I'm not gonna lie, there are some pretty cheesy dialogue bits here, and it's hard to tell if the game is embracing this style or not. I just think the dialogue may be offbeat compared to the tone that the game is trying to portray. There are times when the dialogue is really great and it resonates with me, but there are also times where the delivery of some lines are just so out of place.
I was worried. Old habits, I suppose.
I get it. Waiting for the calls to come in, it was the hardest part of being Oracle.
The delivery of some of Batgirl's lines fall flat almost 100% of the time. There isn't much range there. You see a scene with her and Alfred where you can see a shift in the quality between the two voice actors. I'm the kind of person who can overlook this type of thing most of the time. One of my favorite superhero shows was a show called Gotham, a pretty cheesy, over-the-top show about Gotham's criminal underworld. Now that show embraced that goofy side through and through, so it really made sense there. The enemy AI dialogue is horrendous as well. Some of the things that the enemies shout out is so cheesy, and it's not even laughable. It just makes me cringe. Now, many of the side characters deliver some great performances here, like I said, Alfred, but especially Harley Quinn. This is actually one of my favorite Harley Quinn portrayals between the TV shows, games, and movies. It is different from all the rest. You get that brilliance from her past being a psychiatrist, with that flair we also know and love that the character is associated with.
Everything is in this book. But I'm missing my piece de resistance. I need you to follow up on this here card. That'll make it perfect.
You visit her in Blackgate Prison on a mission where she completely steals the show between her and Batgirl. The first few combat encounters felt really good to me. I'm not gonna lie, the combat was feeling kind of decent to me, landing those punches. It was an interesting change from what we've been used to in the Arkham series, and I'm just going to be honest, if we got more Arkham series combat, the free flow combat system in this game, I think I would have been a little disappointed because I did want something new, and this game changes up the genre and gives us a different combat style that I personally didn't mind. I think the game has larger issues than its combat system, because I personally enjoy it. If you don't enjoy the combat, you probably aren't going to enjoy the rest of the game. It's a pretty hard thing to get over because the game has you grind a lot, so you're going to be spending a lot of time doing the combat. So if you're not into it, I wouldn't waste your time here. Taking a look into some of the suits and customizable options is promising. There are some pretty badass suits here that I wanted to unlock and work towards from the beginning. You don't get a hold of the gliding mechanics from the beginning of the game, and that's strange. You were left to grapple and just parkour yourself around the city until you complete a quest that is pretty grindy. Once you have done this, you'll unlock the ability to glide or traverse the world. It's different for each hero. The grapple mechanics are fun. They're different from the Arkham games, but they do feel a little off. It's hard to explain, but doesn't really flow that well. And I felt that, and you spend a lot of time doing this, so that's pretty important to me. But the entire first portion of the game is very slow. The first 6 hours or so is super slow, and that's what you don't want in your game. The first few hours are really important to pull players in. As you probably know, the main villain here is the Court of Owls, and they were a huge corner of the game's marketing, and they're not mentioned or seen for many of the first hours in the game. I understand that they might want you to uncover that on your own, but this makes the first portion of the game drag, and many people know that the Court of Owls is coming, so I don't understand why it takes a very, very long time to get into it. I felt like it was really hard to get the story moving here. And many players are having a lot of difficulty getting into this game during that first portion, and I totally agree with that. It's really understandable. The stealth here is not on the same level as the Arkham series either. I'm just going to be honest and say this because it does need to be said. I know I have been making a lot of comparisons to the Arkham games, along with anyone else online who reviews and discusses the game. They can't help but reference the Arkham games and compare the two, and I don't think that's necessarily fair. Gotham Knights isn't trying to be an Arkham game. If Gotham Knights was trying to be an Arkham game, they wouldn't have gone with this RPG style of game. They could have gone with a version of the free flow combat system, but they didn't. They tried many new things here, and everything does feel somewhat new, but the stealth isn't as good as what we previously had. But again, the Arkham series was a masterclass at stealth, and that improved through each game. What this game did right, and what they did not get enough credit for, is the lighting and interior design. The interior spaces are done very well, and I noticed this in areas like the Iceberg Lounge and the Powers Club. They create some great atmosphere and style that gives this game its own identity. These spaces are very impressive, and I thoroughly enjoyed this aspect of the game. The design of Gotham here is also well done. It's not as stylized as other versions that we have seen in other games and movies, but it is filled with many glowing neon signs and lights in areas that are some of my favorite spots in the city. Liking or disliking some design choices is entirely personal preference, but I personally like the design of the city in Gotham Knights. It can feel a little bare sometimes and not as gritty as it could be, but I think what they got here ain't bad. Same goes for the character suits as well. I checked out every single hero's suits, and they're pretty badass. WB didn't shy away from the designs here. Many are inspired from the comics, and fans love to see that. I personally stuck with Batgirl most of the game because I enjoyed her the most, probably because she shares a lot of similarities with Batman. When I finally grinded enough to unlock the ability to glide, that just sounds ridiculous, but the first feeling that I got when using it wasn't great either. It works fine and it can be fun at most times, but I feel like WB didn't really get these mechanics working as smoothly as they could. It should feel smooth and buttery. That's how traversal in games should feel. It shouldn't feel choppy. It's the same case with the grapple gun I talked about earlier. Everything works just fine. Everything in this game could have just used more polish so it holds together stronger. That's what makes fine games good games, and going even beyond that point and focusing on perfecting every part of each mechanic, that's what makes good games great. And I just think WB should have spent more time on that point. They could have really pushed out something amazing if they just put more work into it. I feel like they kind of got to a point here and they were just like, well, that's good enough. And to even further my case, I've not run into any bugs so far that I can immediately recall. I can't speak for anything on the PS5 and the PC, but on the Series X, I haven't encountered anything major at all. The game works just fine, and it runs okay as well. We're going to talk about the frame rate later. There's nothing missing here. It just all needs some more polish. They got everything working just fine, but they didn't take it past that threshold. The same goes here for the game's performance. Running at 30 FPS on Series X and PS5 is a huge disappointment, and it has turned many fans off to the game completely. I didn't let it stop me because I wanted to know what was going on here, and I wanted to see if it was actually that bad. And after I saw someone make the point on Twitter, I'm not sure exactly where it came from or who said this, but it's true. The greatest games of the last generation and some of the best games of all time have run at 30 FPS, and that didn't stop us from playing them, like God of War, Spider-Man, the Soul series, Red Dead, The Last of Us, GTA, the Witcher series, the Arkham series. It's utterly absurd to say a game isn't worth your time purely based on how many frames it runs at, and we have just become accustomed to these higher frame rates and resolutions. I totally understand not wanting to support a game that doesn't utilize the current hardware, especially when the game is exclusively on next-gen hardware. It doesn't make any sense. If it's only on next-gen, that's probably because it utilizes the next-gen hardware, but it's not. In conclusion, guys, Gotham Knights isn't completely bad. It's not a dumpster fire or a shit show. It does lack and disappoint in many ways, but it does do some things well. Do your research, watch reviews, gameplay, read up, and make an educated decision if you think is worth your money. Better yet, grab it on sale in that case. It is a different genre than the Arkham series, so don't expect it to play like that game because it's different and it feels different. I've been playing this single player because I didn't want to hassle any of my friends to fork out the money for this controversial game, but I personally have enjoyed playing through the story on my own. Once you get past the god-awful dialogue and voice acting, if you're a Batman fan, there is some fun to be had here. Thank you guys for watching and supporting the channel. It's amazing to see a huge surge in viewers on the channel, and I'll keep making content for you guys no matter what. If there's a game you want me to discuss, let me know in the comments. Other than that, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed this video and any of my other content and want to see more. Thanks guys, and happy gaming.